Welcome back to Malden's Revolution. I'm Mark Linehan. 250 years ago today, on April 24th, 1775, Malden receives additional orders from the Massachusetts Provincial Congress's Committee of Safety. Having ordered cannon transferred to Malden from Newburyport only 3 days ago, the Committee of Safety seems to have realized the risks involved in giving such powerful weapons to a militia of farmers and cordwainers. A cordwainer is an archaic English term for a shoemaker, specifically one who makes shoes with new leather, as opposed to a cobbler, who is one who only repairs shoes. And that's today's very old Old World word. The Committee of Safety resolved that the inhabitants of Chelsea and Malden be, and hereby are, absolutely forbidden to fire upon or otherwise injure any seamen belonging to the Navy under the command of Admiral Graves, unless fired upon by them, until the said inhabitants of Chelsea and Malden receive orders from this committee or the general of the provincial forces so to do. And with that, we have two new characters to meet. The Provincial Congress twice named a man named Jedediah Preble to serve as general of the provincial forces, but it's recorded that he declined due to ill health. Also, General Preble lived far away in Falmouth, Massachusetts, but not the Falmouth on Cape Cod you may be familiar with. Falmouth, Massachusetts in 1775 is today the beautiful city of Portland, Maine. So Preble is too far away and, more importantly, too ill to respond immediately to the events of April 19th. So his second-in-command, General Artemus Ward of Shrewsbury, serves as commanding general, although he's not officially appointed commander-in-chief until the middle of May. So we can assume that the Committee of Safety is instructing the towns of Malden and Chelsea that only the committee or General Artemus Ward can give them permission to fire on the fleet of Admiral Graves. Admiral Samuel Graves was a British vice admiral who had been appointed the commander of the North American Squadron in the summer of 1774, making him responsible for defending the entire North American coastline from Nova Scotia to Florida, while also enforcing a blockade of the port of Boston to prevent the colonists from importing any weapons or gunpowder. And he's to do all this with a squadron of only 19 vessels. That's approximately one ship for every 100 miles of coast. Admiral Graves has just turned 62 years old and has served in the Royal Navy for over 40 years. One episode in his long and very active career included serving in Admiral Edward Vernon's disastrous expedition to Cartagena in 1741, in which also served a young officer from Virginia named Lawrence Washington, who thereafter named his home after his former commanding officer, the famous Mount Vernon. It was Admiral Graves' sailors who ferried the 700 British soldiers across the Charles River from Boston to Cambridge on their way to Concord. And when Paul Revere snuck across the Charles River in a rowboat to Charlestown, he snuck right by Admiral Graves' largest ship, the 70-gun HMS Somerset. But like General Thomas Gage, who is serving the dual role of Massachusetts Royal Governor and Commander-in-Chief of the British Army in North America, Admiral Graves has standing orders to his ships that they are not to fire upon any colonists unless actually attacked. Now, it's unlikely the Provincial Congress was aware of Graves' standing order, but on April 24th, 1775, they order the towns of Malden and Chelsea to adopt the same policy as the Royal Navy: do not fire unless first fired upon. But how long can this order stand? Will the Royal Navy bombard Malden and Chelsea? Will Graves' ships prove too tempting a target for Malden's militia? Stay tuned. A cordwainer is an archaic... Freddie,